It's a story that sounds like a movie, but it's real. In 1938, a man named Lee Byung-chul started a small business in Daegu, Korea. It wasn't a tech company, it wasn't selling fancy gadgets, it was a grocery store. That's right, the Samsung we know today began by trading noodles, dried fish, and local produce. He had about $30 to his name and a dream. He called his company Samsung, which means 3 stars. The name represented something big, powerful, and everlasting. Even from these small beginnings, the ambition was clear. He wanted to build something that would last, something that would shine brightly for a long time. Most people, if they had a successful noodle business, would probably just try to make more noodles. Maybe open another shop, maybe create a new flavor. But Lee Byung-chul was different. He saw opportunity everywhere. After the Korean War, he looked at his country and saw what it needed to rebuild. So, he moved into new areas. He started making sugar. Then he went into wool, creating the largest woolen mill in the country. It was a huge leap from selling groceries, but he wasn't afraid. He understood that to grow, you can't stay in the same place. You have to look around and ask, what's next? This wasn't about abandoning his past. It was about building on it to create a stronger future. This early willingness to pivot is the first big lesson from Samsung's story. Imagine telling your friends you're going from selling vegetables to building a giant wool factory. They would probably think you are crazy. But Samsung's founder wasn't driven by what was easy or familiar. He was driven by opportunity. He saw a need in the market, and he filled it. This constant search for the next big thing became the company's DNA. It was a mindset that said, what worked yesterday is great, but what will work tomorrow? This philosophy is what separated Samsung from so many other small businesses that started and then faded away. So many entrepreneurs get stuck on their first idea, they fall in love with it, they believe it's the only thing that will ever work. Samsung teaches us that your first idea doesn't have to be your last. It can be a stepping stone. The grocery business gave Lee the capital and the confidence to try something bigger. The sugar refinery did the same. Each success was not a destination but a launch pad for the next adventure. It's a powerful reminder that the journey of a business is not a straight line. It's a series of twists, turns, and sometimes complete changes of direction. And that's not just okay, it's necessary for survival and growth. As Samsung grew, its ambition grew with it. The company didn't just add new businesses, it entered completely different worlds. After succeeding in textiles and food processing, where do you go next? For Samsung, the answer was everywhere. They jumped into insurance, providing financial security for people. Then they moved into real estate, literally building the cities of the future. They even started a department store. Each move seems random if you look at it alone. A department store and an insurance company? What's the connection? The connection was a relentless drive to diversify and become essential to the nation's economy. The 1960s brought another massive change. Samsung looked at the world and saw that electronics were the future. So in 1969 they founded Samsung Electronics. Their first product? A black and white television. Think about that leap. From wool and sugar to televisions. This wasn't just a small pivot, it was a complete reinvention of the company's identity. They were entering a highly competitive technical field with zero experience. It was a huge risk. Many companies would have failed spectacularly. But Samsung dedicated itself to learning, to catching up, and eventually, to leading the way in this new and exciting industry. This fearless approach to new industries is a masterclass for any entrepreneur. It shows that you are not defined by what you have done, but by what you are willing to do next. Samsung wasn't a food company or a textile company. It was simply Samsung, a company that was willing to tackle any challenge if it saw a path to success. They expanded into shipbuilding and heavy industries, building the massive ships that carry goods around the globe. They were building the hardware of the modern world, from the buildings people lived in to the ships that supplied them. This wasn't just business, it was nation building. This period teaches us that fear of the unknown is the enemy of growth. While other companies were perfecting their one product, Samsung was learning entirely new languages of business. They were becoming experts in finance, then retail, then electronics, then heavy industry. Each new venture brought new risks, but also new rewards and new knowledge. This constant learning made the company stronger and more resilient. It's a powerful lesson. Don't be afraid to be a beginner again. The willingness to start from scratch in a new field is a superpower for any entrepreneur who dreams of building an empire. The late 20th century brought the digital age, and Samsung was ready to pivot again. This time, the bet was bigger than ever before. In the 1980s, the company made a monumental decision to enter the semiconductor business. They decided to manufacture memory chips, the tiny brains that would power the coming wave of computers and digital devices. At the time, this market was dominated by established American and Japanese giants. It was an incredibly expensive and risky gamble. Many inside and outside the company believed it was a path to bankruptcy. It required immense investment in research and development. But Samsung's leadership pushed forward with unwavering determination. They poured billions into building state-of-the-art fabrication plants. The early years were brutal, filled with technical challenges and massive financial losses, yet they refused to quit. They understood that memory chips were not just a product, they were the foundational building blocks of the entire digital future. If they could succeed here, they wouldn't just be a player in the electronics market, they would be supplying the entire industry. This long-term vision, this willingness to endure short-term pain for long-term gain, is a hallmark of great entrepreneurial thinking. Their persistence paid off spectacularly. By the early 1990s, Samsung had become the world's largest producer of memory chips, a position it has often held ever since. This success fueled the next wave of innovation. They used their expertise in components to dominate another critical area, flat-screen displays. As bulky CRT televisions and monitors were becoming obsolete, Samsung invested heavily in LCD and later OLED technology. They didn't just make screens for their own products, they became the leading supplier for many of their competitors, including Apple. They owned the most important pieces of the puzzle. Then came the final, most visible pivot: smartphones. When Apple launched the iPhone in 2007, it changed everything. Many established phone makers like Nokia and BlackBerry were slow to react. They were stuck in their old ways of thinking. Samsung, however, saw the shift and went all in. Leveraging their power in chips, displays, and manufacturing, they launched the Galaxy line of smartphones. They weren't afraid to compete directly with the most innovative company in the world. They adapted, they innovated, and they quickly became the world's largest smartphone manufacturer by volume, proving once again that the biggest risk is not changing at all. So what is the grand lesson in this epic journey from noodles to smartphones? It's simple, but it's not easy. The lesson is this: change is not your enemy, it is your greatest opportunity. Samsung's history is a 90-year-long story of embracing change. They were never afraid to leave a successful business behind if a better one appeared on the horizon. They didn't let their identity as a grocery trader stop them from becoming a textile giant. They didn't let their success in televisions stop them from gambling everything on memory chips. They understood that in business and in life, standing still is the same as moving backward. For every entrepreneur out there, this story should be your blueprint. Are you holding on to an idea that isn't working just because you've invested time in it? Are you afraid to pivot because you're comfortable with what you know? Samsung shows us that true lasting success comes from the courage to let go. It comes from the willingness to look at the market with fresh eyes and say, what is needed now? It's about being agile, adaptable, and a little bit fearless. Don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to start over. Every pivot is a chance to get closer to your ultimate goal. Think about your own venture. Maybe your initial idea isn't getting the traction you hoped for. Maybe the market has shifted under your feet. Don't see this as a failure, see it as a Samsung moment. It's a signal to look for a new opportunity, to try a different path. Your journey doesn't have to be a straight line. It can be a winding road with surprising turns that lead to places you never imagined. The key is to keep your eyes open, your mind flexible, and your spirit ready for the next challenge. Don't be defined by your first chapter. Be excited to write the next one. Here is your call to action. Look at your business, your project, your career. Is there something you need to change? Is there a risk you've been too afraid to take? Today is the day to start. Don't get stuck in the past or wedded to a plan that no longer serves you. Be like Samsung, be bold, be brave, try something new, pivot, evolve. That is how you go from selling noodles in a small shop to changing the entire world. Your 3 stars are waiting. Go out there and find them. The real path to success is paved with the courage to change.